All right. I think we're live. I'm not sure if it'll be the same link as the one I gave you. That's the only problem.
Mm.
But
How
it's still but if they're on the channel, then they should be able to find it super easy.
okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if anybody is as well versed. But I'm thinking, I mean, as long as your people know, my people are probably not quite as
And I
they
can
haven't done as
I
much, but
I can give you another link if
I
if that would be helpful.
that's fine. Don't worry about it. As long as your people know. And I can, I mean, if you don't mind, then maybe just sending me the entire video and then I can post it on mine and
Oh
people
yeah,
can,
oh yeah. It'll get posted
you
to
know,
the YouTube afterwards. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
yeah.
we're live right now. Okay, I
Good.
should be good. If anybody's out there and can hear us right now, feel free to type in chat. Let us know everything looks good, sounds good. This is the first time for this kind of a live stream on this channel. If you guys are new here, welcome. My name's Acing Tennis. Um, and this is Meike Babel. She is a coach out of Colorado, full-time coach, right?
Wow.
Yep, former top 50 WTA professional player and excellent coach and athlete. She's going to be helping us out with some doubles gameplay today. I am super excited to learn some things because doubles is an area where I have lacked a lot over the years because I just have focused on singles for most of the time I've been playing tennis. So I definitely have a lot to learn when it comes to doubles, and she'll probably yell at me a lot in the video that we're about to watch. So,
And
um,
you'll get the stink. I wish I could raise just one eyebrow, for whatever reason. So yeah, we'll do that.
all right. Let's see. Looks like we got 8 people in here so far. We'll give people some time to show up and join. Did you want to say anything to kick us off a little bit? Maybe introduce a little bit about yourself or something
Sure.
like
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, hi everyone. I'm super excited that Acing Tennis is giving me this opportunity, and I'm super excited that it's doubles. Because I always enjoy doubles a little bit more. Obviously, you share the burden or you share the success, either one. I'm surprised actually that you don't play more doubles since you're in Atlanta. I mean, the first thing that I got roped in was doubles. And
Alta.
yeah, Alta. I was just like, hey, do you play tennis? That's the first thing that people ask you when when you're meeting somebody else. Um, so yeah, doubles is awesome, and I think from what I've seen on your video, there's a couple of tweaks. But yeah, it just definitely takes a little bit getting used to, especially if you've played only singles. But there are no any issues where I'm going like, oh my god, this is
Right.
this cannot be helped.
That's good. At least that can be helped.
Yes, you can be helped, and I think doubles is just a phenomenal way. Obviously to be a little bit more social, but just to work on all the things that you need to be working on anyway.
Right.
In singles, and with more precision, even
Right.
turns. And I think that's unfortunately, especially in junior tennis now, that's not really stressed as much, which
Right.
was very different when I grew up.
Yeah.
Uh, because also for just court reasons, like us younger kids didn't get to play singles as much when I was in state practices and those kind of more elite practices. It was always
Right.
the older kids that got to play singles. So we played a lot of doubles, and thankfully I had pretty good coaches.
Right. Yeah, that was kind of something I noticed when I started playing tennis. I mean, obviously, when you start playing, like one of the biggest problems, even for me, now and for the years to come, is just consistency. And what you're talking about with like precision and that sort of thing is when I started to transition into playing some doubles, because I started playing singles and just played. I mean, that's all I did was play by myself or play singles match, just hitting to learn tennis. And so when I started playing doubles singles, it was like I just don't have the skill I felt like to play doubles quite yet, and that was like,
Yeah.
yeah, right, yeah, for sure. No, I'm not saying that I don't.
Yeah.
I feel like I've gotten way better now to where like I can actually hit some of those like passing shots down the line, or just kind of just gentle shots that you need to angle in the court. But when I was first starting out, it was like I already didn't have the precision and the consistency, and doubles just made it 10 times worse because there's always
Yeah.
that person at the net, that's going to punish you
Yeah.
anytime that you mess up. So,
Yeah. And I just have to do a disclaimer. So just shameless like self-promotion. I did put out a video, 10 most common mistakes in doubles, but that was before I saw your video. So please don't say it was like, okay, I watched Acing tennis footage, and it's like, okay, there's mistake 1, 2, 3, up to 10.
I'm sure we have all 10.
We shall see. We shall see. Yes.
All right.
But again, they're easily fixed, I think. And especially that is the one thing that I love in Atlanta, that a lot of people get to play with the same person over and over and over again.
Right.
So you do really develop this kind of feel for what the other person is doing. And if you're both on the same page, it just gets you like better so much quicker.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, we can see it even when we play against people, because it's not just for like ourselves. In the video that you watched, you probably noticed the other guy. I mean, they were just so good at communicating, and you could just tell that they had played together quite a lot. And that goes so far in doubles. I've played against doubles teams that I knew like individually we were better than, but together they just infinitely worked better on the court than we did. And that, I mean, you can just blow somebody out of the water just by simply working so much better together. So definitely agree.
Totally agree. Yeah. And especially, I mean, you see that on tour now, that you have like people that don't even play singles. They just concentrate on doubles, on both men's and women's. And it's, if they played against those same players in a singles match, they'd absolutely get hacked off the court. But they make somebody who only plays singles look like a total beginner, because they just, know exactly where to be, what to do.
And it's a reason why, you don't see like Rafa and Federer playing doubles together and just wiping the floor with everybody, like, or you don't see the Bryan brothers playing singles and, dusting everybody off the court. I mean, there's something to that.
What is it? The Laver Cup.
Yeah. Laver Cup. Oh, that's so much fun to watch.
Where they sometimes play doubles and you just go like,
yeah. You're like, what are you doing?
What did you just do?
Yeah. I love watching that.
My players don't make that mistake, but it's, it's just what you do. So
if I had to pick one tournament to watch, it would be the Laver Cup. It's too much fun.
It's a lot of fun.
All right, we got a few people in here now. I think most people that are going to join will probably be coming in as time goes on. We can start whenever you would like. If there's anything else you want to say before we start, you're more than welcome to.
No, I'm all good. Now comes the most stressful moment of the night, which means I have to share my screen and not screw up. So I'm always hoping that is smooth. There we go. So you let me know when you see the screen. I just have to get into. There we go. Are you still there?
Yep. Yeah, I'm still here. I'm just waiting for it to. Oh, there it is. Never mind. I found it.
And
there we go.
You can see it properly?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. So what I thought we're going to do is we're going to start with a couple of serve points of yours. So I'll just go ahead and give you your real names. This is Brian, and this here is Alex. And again, thank you very much for making it so distinct with the shirts.
Yeah, red and black. Yep. Welcome to Georgia.
Yes, that was very helpful. Let me just see if I can clear this. There we go. So I want to just start, because I know that maybe not everybody is a 4-0 right away. I just wanted to real briefly go over the roles when you're serving. So a lot of players, and we will see that with your opponents a little bit, they start out in the wrong positioning. So for you two here, this is great positioning. Brian is exactly where he needs to be.
Yep.
And you are exactly where you need to be. The one teeny tiny thing is you could potentially be a little further back once you got the timing down on when to move forward.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And but we'll see that later, what a too close of a position does. or what it keeps you from doing. Then in our little chat before we came on live, I'd asked you if you two play with signals. I personally like the talking a lot more than the, behind the back kind of thing. And I always find it hilarious when, for instance, like two English players or English speaking players are playing against like two Japanese players, and the Japanese players are holding their fists before their mouth because we all lip read Japanese. But anyway, so if you wanted to start that, I think it would be very valuable to just, come back together and just say like, okay, next serve, I'm going to try to serve out wide, because that gives you a little bit of an opportunity already to, predict where the ball potentially could come. I mean, you guys are good enough that your serves will be placed, in the area that you're saying.
Right.
So I'm going to let this point run, and I'm actually going to go down with the speed just a smidgen. So it's not going to run too far.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking we're seeing one thing here. So let's go with that here. So unfortunately, I'm going to pick on you here a little.
That's fine. That's fine.
So I'm thinking, had you talked to each other and Brian goes like, okay, I'm going to go wide, what you're doing even before he hits, right? Or you're seeing that it's going to his forehand, you're simply taking a half step diagonally forward. And then you got that line covered.
Yeah.
Right. So right now you're getting kind of caught a little cold-footed, flat-footed.
Right.
Cold-footed. In German, you say cold-footed. Yeah, German flat-footed. So I'm trying to speak English. So that's the one thing that I think I would say there, that you start that, because I think you said that you're going to continue playing with one another a little longer, correct?
Yes, we'd want to, but he's actually going out to Colorado for a few months, so so we might not get to play together for a little while, but that's all right.
Well, when he comes back, or whoever you're playing with, I think that at your level, that's definitely something that you need to start working with.
Yeah.
And then the movement, when your partner serves towards the tee here, you're in a golden position, right? You don't even have to move any further over. You can just stay exactly where you are. Or if he hits right into the body, you're also in the proper position. So the only time that you want to shift that half step diagonally out is when your partner goes towards the alleys, just to cut that angle off.
Yeah.
Whenever I was taught and whenever I was I was taught to always play defense first and solidify that, really try to master that before you start becoming more aggressive. So in doubles, that would translate, don't get passed down the line as much. If you don't poach, I don't have an issue with it if you don't get passed down the line.
Right. That makes sense.
So that's kind of my philosophy there, because I do see a lot of players that, we're poaching, we have to poach, everybody wants to poach, and then we're poaching on everything that's yellow and flying, and doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That can maybe at some, we can do that at some other time. So let's look at more of your points.
All right.
So you're serving here, and I think what I pointed out earlier is absolutely true for Brian. So Brian, to my mind, is way too close. And I did pick 3 examples of where we see what happens when somebody is too close. So when somebody's getting the ball right at you, you're jammed. Right. And you feel that you can't really aggressively move forward because, you're going to touch the net. So you don't want to do that. So I would suggest that you start, and I like where he is laterally, in the middle of the box, but about, I want to say 3/4 back. So in this perspective, maybe it's difficult to draw,
right?
But just a little further back, so that whenever this guy is about to hit, you're split stepping, and then you can bound either wide or just straight up forward, or even shade over a little bit if you want to.
Yeah.
But you're just getting flat-footed there a little bit, Brian, if he's on. You can yell at me, Brian, in a couple of weeks when you're here in Colorado. So the next couple of examples are the exact same thing. So that's, just producing a very, very passive response there. And this guy's just a little greedy. So same here. I'm thinking if you have a high forehand volley here, just inside the service line or on the service line, If Brian is a little bit more over here and a little further back with his athleticism that I saw at the rest, that's his ball. And it's his forehand, right? And
Right.
that ball you want to then pick off and just go down the middle. So that shouldn't, to my mind, shouldn't even be your ball anymore if we're playing this a little bit more often. The other thing that I'm seeing, and you correct me, I did not see Mr. Blue Shirt here hit one drive or topspin on the backhand.
That's funny because he was, I mean, when we were warming up, he was driving with the backhand, but I think he did it a couple times during the match, but he definitely is a little bit more passive with it.
Yeah, so that is something when you're serving and you're kind of establishing, ooh, this guy is pretty much just chipping the ball. Early in the match, you want to poach on that guy all day long, basically, just to let him know, hey, this is a weakness. You
Right.
can't bump the ball over. We're going to take this away. Make him, with a slice, pass you down the line. And that is something that comes with experience. But that is, especially when he then changes it from the warm up to the actual match, maybe at, 2-3 games into the match, you can start talking to one another. Okay, what are you seeing on those returns?
Right.
Because both of you have good serves, right? And with a little bit more aggressive court positioning here, you're going to pick off a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So that, I think, is something that can be quite easily fixed there. I don't mind that you missed that. Don't care. You're going at the shorter position person. That's okay. This snuck in there. Don't know what that did. Okay. So Alex serving again. Again, Brian, I'm picking on you. Little too close. And what should be a fairly easy put away has him on his back foot. Right. So that is,
Right.
if you start exactly here, you're moving forward into that and put it into, your wide open area here.
Right.
So again, Brian, when you come in here to Colorado, I'm going to yell at you a lot to be in a better position up at net. So let's look at the next one here. Okay, and this is something, this is not necessarily as much to do with your serve, although I do like the serve. But that's also the too close of a net position. You should not get passed or lobbed with the ball that bounces on the service line.
For sure.
Get under that sucker and boom, nail it. Even if you don't make it, it's an investment. You have to force this guy to be even more precise.
Right.
Could be. I mean, it looks like Brian may have looked right into the sun. So that's, maybe one thing there. But that, again, just shows you if you're a little further back, you're getting a lot of stuff there off somebody who's returning just with a slice. So I think, let me see how this ends. I can't remember. Oh, yeah, he's missing. Nope, you're missing. Sorry, Alex. The one, and everybody knows it. Everybody's felt that before.
Yeah. And then the funny thing is right after this point, he asked us if we liked his eye formation because he was joking about how badly positioned they were.
Yes, that was a little teens of a cluster. But let's look at how I envision your service game. So, Brian,
Okay.
with your lefty serve, and again, we saw that by now you score 2-1, and you're serving out wide. I think by this time we can see that he's just going to chip it. Here's what you do all day long, right? And that's awesome. I mean, that guy should, when you're shaking and baking up here, even if you're then not moving anymore, you can just kind of fake,
Right.
That guy should see that red shirt here everywhere. And that's going to force him to be even more precise, right? If he wants to beat you, he has to go up to lines, which is super difficult. He has to try lobs over you. But that is something that I would call poaches on that guy fairly early, fairly often. Again,
Yeah.
just so that he sees, whoa, he can't just, bump the ball back. And you're hitting the ball exactly where it needs to go. And just because it's so nice, let's do it again. And that's great. Playing right there. So here's one point that's the one that I meant earlier that has nothing that much or not as much to do with your serve. That to me is a shot selection mistake.
Yeah, I agree.
So what do you think could you have done different if you could do it again? So you have the ball sitting right there.
Just push it deep cross court and hit the net.
Yes, exactly. I think it's so valuable. I mean, obviously, to have both up at net, that you don't want to pass over the higher part of the net. So, and I'm just going to, do you want to call it rule of thumb kind of axiom? We use that a lot is when you're deep to deep, right? When you have one person deep here and one person up, unless the ball sits really high and you can drive clean at this guy, go from deep to deep. Right? So you're just getting there, and that's exactly what you said, right? You want to come in there. If that ball had set up here, by all means, go ahead and tee off on the guy down the line because you can almost hit down. But that is one of the things that's just maybe a little bit of a shot selection mistake, but I've seen that in the entire match that you guys did that really well, and other times I just wanted to point that out for others who are watching.
Yeah, definitely agree.
Okay, and then, all right, so now comes the second most agonizing point of the night. I have to change into the other video. And this is returning. There we go.
There we go.
All good. So this is actually the very, very first point.
Okay.
To my mind, there is a lot to see here already. So Mr. Blue Shirt is way too close to net. So immediately I know if I'm getting into trouble, I can bump lob and just to push him off the net. And if this guy here has a weaker second serve very early in the game, I'm going to tee off on that guy just to back him up. Just to tell him, like, look, dude, I don't want you that close. You're not going to get anything to pick off. The other thing that I'm kind of questioning why this gentleman is standing here.
Yeah, they did a lot of interesting like positioning. They moved around quite a lot while they were serving, and this guy in particular had like a fairly decent flat first serve, but his second serve a lot of times they would even have Blue Shirt back all the way up, and then do like kind of like a dinky serve just to like kick the point off, which I don't know. They did a lot of interesting things.
Yeah, so to me, that is, I would much rather see this guy back here a little bit more. And just for other people who are a little newer, to double. So one thing, the reason why you want to stand out here a little bit further is if you're coming in, which he is, they play serve and volley quite a bit, you can get in playing your volley somewhere around here and then closing in towards the center of the court without any changes of direction. Which is whenever you have to change direction, it slows you down. It's potentially getting you off balance, and that's not what you want to do.
Right.
So we can look at him. So just now I'm looking at him here, right? He's coming in, and if you're getting that ball into the fairly wide area, and you had plenty of those shots, he has to go out here, and then if he goes cross court, he has to cover back into the center of the court. So that's one unnecessary change of direction.
Right.
One thing that I want to go back to a little later, so please do remind me, I have a potential idea of why I want you two to switch, right? So that you're playing ad side and Brian plays deuce.
Okay.
So the one reason why, right off the bat, and then we'll get into other stuff, is the one-handed inside-out backhand is potentially the toughest ball to play.
Yeah.
I did play the forehand. I like that shot, but it definitely is not the highest percentage shot because a lot of times, and I think I picked some of those out, your natural body rotation pulls you towards that net guy. So we'll go over that. So please remind me. I'm fairly sure we'll have enough time there.
All right.
Because I think that's going to make a difference. So second point, literally second point of the match. I'm almost thinking these two have watched a lot of tennis, and there's a lot of formation being played, especially on the men's side, but also on the women's side. So right now, I'm not 1,000% sure if he's playing I formation with a shade or if he's playing Australian. The benefit of this position would be that Brian here is forced to hit down the line, which potentially is a shot that he doesn't necessarily like. I mean, it's easier to return cross court. And if you're returning cross court, this is what's going to happen, right? So the idea is when you play this formation, that you're taking the easiest shot away over the net. So I'm thinking that's their idea. However, if they're playing this way, and again, this guy comes in, which he does, I would still shift out here a little bit.
Okay.
And come in straight. So just in case you ever play that or you see this formation again, what that tells me is two things. If they play this well, a little longer into the match, and Brian has issues returning and keeping the ball down the line, you might want to pull Alex back, because then this guy has no target anymore. Then he actually really has to do a lot with his volley instead of just bunting it down. The second thing, formations, against any kind of formations, your highest percentage shot, although it's over the highest part of the net and to the shortest part of the court, is the down the line.
Yeah.
Because if you're going cross court, this guy has it and he's actually got a few points. Although I think on the very next one, which is probably where I would yell at Brian, there we go. That's a fantastic shot, but it's the absolute lowest percentage
right.
that you can choose. And potentially I would fear for your left ear and the left hiney side here.
Yep.
So that works, I mean, once or twice potentially. And yes, try it early in the score. Perfect. Just again to tell this guy, hey, I have this shot, but your highest percentage return comes up right now. All right. And that's just beautiful, deep. And that's again where I'm questioning, why this guy is so far in, if they're choosing that. But since they're not acing tennis and Brian, we don't have to be as concerned about it. So this is the another concept again, or the same concept, as we talked about earlier. This formation probably will not happen as much. Usually you have the one up, one back with, the deep position people cross court from one another, but it's the same principle here. So you have one deep position person and one deep position person. So just as a rule of thumb, deep to deep, go down the line all day long.
Right.
This guy really has to sprint all the way over there to make a poach. And he's actually doing the right thing. When Brian kind of gets away from that concept a little bit, he goes short to short. He misses it. But that should be his point, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Right. So you have a short position guy, and if you have an up ball that I'm kind of defining by anything that's above net line, kind of chest, and you can hit down on it, it needs to go to this guy's feet.
Right.
And that's just, that's the one and only time probably when you get hit. That's the one and only time you apologize when you hit somebody. Other than that, don't apologize. But that's a little bit more on Brian here, who potentially got a little anxious. Just let them see what they have. I mean, just force them to show you what they got. Just go down the line. If they end up with a shorter ball, you come in and establish two at net. So that's how I would play that. If you get in trouble here, always a good idea is to go cross-court lob, especially with Brian's leftiness and the role that he can produce there. I think that might not be a bad idea because I didn't see you guys use as many lobs, to be honest. So him not being that high, I would potentially use lobs every now and then just when I get in trouble.
Right.
So here again, same thing. Be a little bit more consistent, a little bit more determined, I guess, just to go deep, even when the guy comes in, right? And that is, you have plenty of balls where you did it, but just for people that, have not seen the rest of this footage, when I'm seeing somebody come in here, I'm not necessarily seeing this area to play in. I'm seeing this area to play.
Yeah.
So that's also maybe a little bit, do I want to call it a passive approach? I don't necessarily think so. My coaches always call it the 1-2 punch, right? So you're jabbing until boom, you get your cross in. So if you can dip this ball down to his feet, he has to lift it up. And that actually gets you here up at net potentially a little bit more active, right? And I'm thinking sometimes I'm seeing just the initial effort to immediately pass. So I'm seeing a lot of room open there. So that's maybe something you can work on. And again, both of you have really good dips, right? Especially Brian with his leftiness, he could dip it down there.
Right.
Does that make sense so far?
Oh, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Any questions so far?
No, I agree with all of those.
Okay, awesome. So next thing is, again, not quite sure why Mr. Blue Shirt is not out here a little bit more. If he's playing serve and volley, which he's doing.
He actually did a lot. I noticed, actually, I think he would like start out there sometimes and then move to the inside, or either vice versa. He start on the inside with his like stronger serve, and then his second serve he would move out.
Okay. So yeah, that's, again, we don't have to worry about as much, but again, for you as the returner, right, it potentially takes a little bit more pressure off because you're working on getting the ball down instead of like a clean winner somewhere back here.
Right.
Just going over the roles of the returning partner here. Brian does what he's supposed to do. His first job, he's helping you make the call. So that's absolutely what he needs to be doing. Number two would be that his eyes are actually going to net player, because out of these two here, the guy in the gray is the next potential person that could hit the ball. So eyes go from line to this dude. And only when the ball is by this person and he cannot poach is when you would move forward a little bit.
Okay.
So see what Brian does. Oh yeah, that is this play. I love that play. Except for the last one. Going back here. Because you did exactly what I think you need to be doing. Right? Let's see if I can get it down to the strings. You're making the guy volley up.
Right.
Right? It's not anything fancy schmancy that you're doing. It's a super solid return. Absolutely love that. And when you play with somebody who's, a little bit more familiar with this, potentially, if it's even lower, Brian can cut through.
Right.
Right. The second you see the racket head dip below the net here, Brian could bound forward and then potentially cut over. On your second ball, so if you could do it again, what would you do?
I would definitely go back to the blue guy again.
Yeah.
Or down the middle, essentially.
Yes. You hear me get all excited. It's like, yeah, middle.
Yep.
Because I think, actually, to be perfectly honest, they're doing a good job covering. There's not too much out here, right? If he's on his left foot, if he's just setting it out here, he's going to reach across. He has that. Whether he makes or does something with it, don't know.
Right.
This angle here, this guy has with a diagonal step. So they're doing a good job covering the court and taking away pretty much everything super open away from you. So if you see that there's nothing blatantly open, go through the middle.
Definitely.
And, yeah, try to dip it down.
I think this is probably something I do in the early matches, like not like super consciously, and I don't, and it's not necessarily correct, is kind of like testing my shots and also testing to see how they react to certain shots, because this was still so early in the match, and like we haven't, like this is only our second return game, and so I got kind of like a slower ball there, and we hadn't really tested the net guy yet, and so I was just kind of testing a shot essentially.
Got it. Yeah. The only thing is here, right, if you have to lift it.
Right. I definitely could have taken that earlier.
Yeah. So either get up earlier and then really nail him, right? Again, I hate to say that, but it's a little bit about establishing kind of who's boss.
Right.
Then go out there and nail him. If not, if this is later in the match and you've seen, okay, this guy can actually volley, this is your target area.
Definitely.
You're not going to get hurt there. You may not necessarily immediately win the point, but you will most likely get another pop up there, and then you can take care of it.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next one. Kind of beating a dead horse there. So that's a positioning mistake of this gentleman. He's way too far over.
Right.
And I'm not 100% sure. Again, I think he probably just decided, okay, it's a Sunday and I want to poach. If I see you, if I'm this person here, I'm going to be a little bit further over. If I do see it going out wide, my first job is again to cover the line. The second job, though, is if I see you perfectly on balance and it's not a called poach, I'm not going to poach.
Yeah.
Because you're not in trouble. You're neither jammed, you're not too, you're moving a little bit, but it sits right in your wheelhouse.
Right.
So you're hitting a good return. That's not the time to poach. And
do you think it had anything to do with the fact that this is like a point it might be like, I'm not even sure if it's the next point or the point after that, the one I just hit down the line. Do you think that might be why he was standing a little further out, or?
Could be. If it was, then not the right decision to my mind.
Oh, definitely.
It doesn't project what you're going to do next, and a serve is different. It could very well be. So, don't know. Next time you see him. So next one here, again, this guy is a little too close.
Right.
And he's a little too far in for my taste, but let's see what's happening here. Love that. Absolutely love that. Couldn't care less that you're missing that ball. And here's why. So let's go back to that. So he's coming in and you're playing exactly the ball that you need to. Nice and low. He's hitting the ball below net line. He's hitting a good volley.
Right.
Nice and deep. Same again. You establish him in the middle. And then I do agree that angle is open. Right? So you just miss it. You just played maybe a little too flatly, but that's how you check them out. And this is, see that here very early in the score. So I mixed the sequence up a little bit. At Vanderbilt, we called that gut checking somebody. If they can hit 3 volleys, okay, then they're okay. But he hit 2, and the second one of those popped up a little bit, then that's what I'm going to do all day long. Right? I'm just going to get the ball down to their feet. Don't have to be fancy schmancy. So that is a point. I'm gladly giving that to them because I've established what I wanted to see with this guy.
Right.
Maybe I'll do that 2-3 times to see if really that's what his patterns are. But that's not, to me, that's just investment, that point.
Definitely agree.
Loved how you got that down here. And then once, Brian gets a little bit more kind of comfortable with that also, if he's just bounding up there once or twice, something is moving here, that adds to, his difficulty of playing a good, precise ball because he's going to take his eye off. And then maybe even if Brian goes through once or twice, then that's going to be mayhem, which I like. All right, so next ball. Excellent. Saw that the guy is actually too far back here. As he's moving forward, which he should, but he's moving inside.
Right.
Expecting what's coming. He's not reacting properly, right? And Brian saw that beautifully. And just with, as much of a high percentage shot that down the line can be, he's just exposing that, boom, right in the middle of the alley. So
that's a mistake I make a lot because I forget that I'm playing against a lefty sometimes.
Yeah, could very well be. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I don't just want to put stuff out there. Oh, you're doing this wrong. This was just, exactly what you needed to do. Guy is orienting himself wrong. And that's another all day long point. That's what we call it, right? Perfect. Yeah. Getting the ball down.
Good low ball at the line. Yep.
Exactly. This is fantastic right here. See, and if you're bounding forward, even if you're not getting it, you're doing it once or twice, this guy's going to pick up his head and potentially even miss this first volley. So that's how you establish, right? That's how you invest in future games, just messing with them a little bit. But again, Brian keeps his cool, boom, down the line. Perfect. That's the same one. Down the line, don't care that you missed it. The only thing that I would say is get your hiney up there a little quicker.
Definitely.
So that you can really roll that ball a little bit more aggressively.
Right.
But as boring as those points potentially look, that is exactly how you play, because you know exactly where you're going to go. There's a big fat target area. They're not going to hurt you, and you have a little bit more time to make decisions.
Right.
Boom. See, I also wanted to show you that.
I like that one.
Yeah.
And that one.
Yeah. I think now we're getting into the, okay, let's talk about the issues that a one-hander especially has on the deuce court. So I'm just letting these run here, and they're all starting out with, and it's not just you, it's everybody, with the deuce court player having to return cross court on an inside out ball. So even if he's a little too close, even if this guy is a little too far in, that's an incredibly difficult shot to make.
Yeah.
So I just want to run this by you. And you get picked off. So I just wanted to run that by you. If you play again,
okay.
Two things you could do, because I did see quite a few. If you feel you're just having too much pressure to be that precise, the first option I would talk about is let Brian come back with you.
Okay.
All right. So they're returning, when they're serving, that's an absolute legitimate, not that it's legitimate to do anything on the court really, but that's something you also see big time on tour now. The serves have gotten so dominant that yes, world-class players, I mean, they camp out right here, but they're also world-class players. They have phenomenal reactions and abilities, physical abilities. But you see that no matter who this guy here is, if they have issues getting the balls back and playing anything with quality, they're going two back. And what that does is it immediately takes the target away from this dude. He can't just hit the ball into this open area, right? He has to now do something a little bit more precise. And that's, again, the gut check that I talked about earlier. So let's, sorry, Brian, this is absolutely not what you look like, obviously. But let's say, your partner is back here. So a volley that, if he picks it off, that previously goes between you, sits now right into Brian's strike zone.
Okay.
Even the two-hander. But you have more time. So I think that's a strategy that you can use fairly soon, because you don't want to miss, or you don't want to lose 6, 7, 8 points before you say like, I'm losing too many points here. And just play that a couple of times. Let's see how he reacts. Let's see how this guy reacts when he comes in. And he can't just, play a regular vanilla volley. He has to do a little bit more.
Right.
Whenever you're asking people to do something that they're not comfortable with, that's when you can really start reading, okay, what they're made of, and force them to do stuff that they don't want to do. The other option that you would have is that potentially the two of you can switch sides after the first set. So after each set, you're allowed to switch. It's not, to me, it's not a sign. I've heard that a lot, that people say, yeah, but then we're giving a weakness away. I'm like, well, you lost the set. That is a weakness right there, right? So don't be stubborn in cooperating into a loss. So if you're going over here, right? So if Alex is returning from here, you can cheat over a little bit, almost where the frame is, where we're out of frame. And most of the shots here and here in the box will sit into your forehand.
Right.
If Brian is here, he can sneak out a little bit to about here, and most of the shots will sit into his forehand.
Right.
So that's something to think about. And then for a one-hander cross court, always easier. Okay, I'm getting a little messy there. And of course, for Brian's backhand, a cross court is also easier. So that is something that you might want to think about when you have the benefit of having a lefty and a righty.
Okay.
Because with two righties or two lefties, it's not going to work that way.
Yeah, I think I always had the wrong mindset with that, like knowing that both of our forehands are stronger. I just had that kind of backwards, thinking like I need to be on deuce side. And
It's not necessarily the wrong mindset. It's just kind of adjusting to what these guys are giving you, because I did notice that, whereas they may have not had the absolute most, bombing serves, they did consistently pick on your backhand here. So they
Yeah.
clearly have the ability to place, and they kind of exploited that a little bit. So you have plenty of doubles teams that like this formation, but I think it's worth pointing out that if you have a lefty and a righty, you could potentially make that switch.
Okay.
And let me see if I have anything else on the end. Did I end with something positive, or do I leave you hanging with something negative? Yep, I'm letting you hang with something negative.
Hey, that's
But
all
the
right.
positive that clearly this one here is Brian's fault because he missed it. No, just sorry, Brian.
That's how tennis works, right?
Yeah, that's so let me go back to Discord here. See if I can make this happen. Am I upright?
You are upright.
Excellent. And let's do this. Wow, that is the most fear-inducing moment of my day when I have to sit around with apps. So what are you hearing? What are the thoughts that come up after I'm done yelling at you?
Is a lot of what I expected, but also like I don't know. I feel like I've done a lot of like research on tennis and like a lot of watching tennis, so like I can visually see things, but it's another thing to actually hear it back, right? So like
And do it.
Oh, no, definitely, definitely. Being in the mindset when you're actually on the court, it definitely feels different. So, a lot of the like positioning stuff at the net was something that I'm constantly thinking about in my match, but I don't actually know whether I'm right or not. So it's really good to hear that. One thing, my wife had helped me with this because she's played tennis a whole lot longer than I have, and because I had this instinctual reaction, which is where I get a lot of my tennis skills from, is just instinct of like, okay, I think I should be doing this, but it was actually wrong. Where when she hits an out wide serve, I'm thinking that they're going to try to come cross court with the ball again, and so I start poaching the middle where I get burned down the line. It's not something that like I recognized instinctually. I needed to be told that. So, and hearing you, like we talked about that with being too close to the net and maybe a little too far left or a little too far right, and then knowing, calling the shot, calling the out wide shot, and then maybe standing or cutting that angle off a little bit when we actually go to that out wide shot. So hearing that kind of stuff is definitely super beneficial.
Awesome.
For sure.
Cool. Is Brian on? Is he on the chat?
I don't know. He said he was gonna pop in. If
Is he still there? Left.
If he is in, Brian, if you could say something in chat if you're in here.
If he's still coming to Colorado after this.
Yeah. He's gonna be, oh God, Micah hates me.
Yep. Terrible. It's what I do with all my clients. I break them down and then I build them up again.
I know. It was funny because I hadn't been like coached since I was a soccer player like a long time ago, and so like I'd never been coached in tennis before, and the first time I got out on a court and there was a coach there, and he was like, I did like a little drills thing or whatever, and he yelled at me about something a couple times, and I just smiled because I was like, this feels nostalgic to me, it was a weird feeling. No, it was a weird feeling like to like remember that because it had been so long since I'd had a coach like tell me, like stop doing that, or whatever. But yeah, I enjoy it, but there's a lot you can learn that I just don't even realize that I can learn from being told stuff instead of just watching it on a screen. So
no, got it. What do you think? Do we have a couple of minutes for a Q&A if there are any?
I'm totally down. If anybody in chat has any questions for Micah or myself, either one, feel free to ask. We'll be here for another, I don't know, however long we have questions for, I guess, and then until we gotta get
dinner
off.
at my house is not served yet.
So, until it's food time.
Like I still have some time.
Yep. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free. You've got a former top 50 professional women's player on the other side of your TV screen right now that you have access to ask questions to. So not every day you get that opportunity. Maybe I can find a question to start us off.
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, what was the most challenging aspect? This is something I've always wondered. What was the most challenging aspect of learning once you got to the point where you were a top level professional? Because like there's a lot of challenges like, getting there, but then once you get there, what do you like what are you trying to actively learn once you get there?
Um, you just it's almost like it's the mythological beast. Like if you chop the head off, like several new ones sprout. Um,
Yeah.
Got to brush up on my Greek mythology here. But it's basically once you've reached a certain level, it opens the door to so many more details. So let's just say, you mastered the backhand, let's say. Um, okay, now I can start working on a slice. Now I'm working on a slice. Okay, I'm working on a more bitey slice. Now I'm working on a slice with inside spin. Now I'm working on a slice when I'm coming in. Now I'm working on a defensive slice. So there's always you reach a level and then you start plateauing on it, and then it just opens up so many more doors, so many
Yeah.
more opportunities. And I think that was sometimes it was really awesome because you go like, okay, great, there's stuff that I can do to get better. Sometimes it was super frustrating because you
Yeah.
figure, oh, I had just like gotten good at this, and now coach tells me I need to learn something else.
Oh yeah. Completely
And
understand.
it's details, obviously, but I think the person who does that the best is Federer. Just by, for instance, remember when he hired Stefan Edberg to work on his serve and volley game because he figured, okay, I'm 34, 35, or however old. I can't play
Right.
those long, grueling points anymore. I got to throw in, some serve and volley. And he was number one in the world at that point. So I think that shows you that at any level, you can still learn.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I think that's a good way to answer that for sure. Let's see. There's a few comments in here. Oh, Brian's here. He said, "What's up, Alex and Micah? What's up?"
So
Um, did you have anything you wanted to say to Brian, or it was that, or
now, but I think I said it all in the video. Looking forward to working with him when he's coming here.
definitely, definitely. Lainey, my wife, says, "What's the best doubles tip? As a singles player, I feel like I struggle to know the right strategy."
Middle, 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 middle.
Yep.
That's why we have so many stupid sayings. Middle solves the riddle, money middle. But there is something to be said for if you don't know what the right shot is and you're getting panicky and then you're just going for really quick fixes, go through the middle.
Yeah.
Even if you don't immediately win the point, but you're setting up
Yeah.
potentially another shot that you can use to finish the point.
Right. And I had actually in one of my drills the other day, somebody, the coach that was there said something about, how the middle works. And, I didn't really, if you think about it from an angles perspective, if you give somebody an out wide ball to volley, they have the whole court to the side of them to volley and to angle it in. But if they're in the middle, they have real short angles out wide, so they can't really harm you from the middle. So it definitely makes sense. Like Alex says, how can you predict where the return of serve is going to be? So if you serve out wide, how do you know it's down the line?
It depends a little bit on the quality of the serve. So what I'm looking at is the feet actually of the person. If they're going either parallel or potentially even behind them because they have to reach so much, it's going to be really, really difficult to pull that ball cross court. So that's more likely to go down the line. Also, now I would need a drawing board. Yeah, I mean it's the balance part for me. So that's really what you want to look for. If they're balanced and they can get to the ball with their body weight behind the ball and coming at the ball, then I would probably not look to cover the middle too much. I would probably be more concerned about my alley because they can still go down the line. If they're pulled wide like crazy and they're moving even backwards or just parallel and they're stretched, probably it's going to be a down the line ball because they can't pull it cross court anymore.
That makes sense. And I'll add on to that, add on to your response and the question. Maybe where should your eyes be as the net player on return of serve? So like maybe are you generally looking at their feet, or are you looking at where the balls are going to bounce, or
that's the potentially the benefit of having somebody who calls their serves, or actually as the net player I'm calling where I want the ball.
right?
So that's when I know, okay, I'm expecting a wide serve. So I'm looking at the feet, I'm looking at their balance. I'm not looking at their racket necessarily. So if I'm
Yeah,
seeing the head tilt over when they're making a get, then I know it's not going to be, a very high quality shot. That's potentially when I can go a little bit more. So when I'm wanting to poach, I need to look for, are they on balance or are they not? Are they jammed, stretched? Uh, Whichever way my partner can get them out of bounds, that's when I'm looking for a poach.
that makes sense. Jeremy says, who's the highest ranked player Micah has ever played?
I've played a couple of number ones, both Martinas, Martina Navratilova and Hingis. I played Steffi a couple of times in doubles. I think, Monica Seles. One point she was one. So I've played the top 20 up and down.
Yeah.
Tiny handed
How was
more or
returning?
less.
How was returning Steffi's wicked knife slice?
It was very frustrating to say the least. I mean, I played her in doubles only to get passed with a slice. That thing is so knifey, and she can hold it so well on her strings that it's really difficult. I mean, she was not the most natural doubles player, but dude, if somebody has her forehand and her serve and her footwork,
Right.
it doesn't really matter.
Right.
It was just like hats off, Steffi, hats off.
I've heard of players at the top level of the ATP are isolated or insulated as they interact only with their team. Is that true?
Uh, yes, I would say so. Don't know how it is now necessarily as much, but it definitely was. Um, yeah, because they just, I mean, they're a different breed in a way. I mean, they're getting the pro treatment, I mean, the super treatment, and justified. Yep, absolutely, deservedly so. But a lot of times they are a little sheltered. Could also be just because they have so much demand on their time. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
just, you think they're just going out there, they're practicing, they're playing their match, and it only has gotten worse. I mean, if I'm seeing that now with social media, responsibilities they have, TVs, the endorsements, it's not, that's all they do. They're not just playing tennis. I mean, they have so much demand on their times, and I think it's also very, very difficult to form new relationships once you're at the top, because you just don't know how many hangers on you have, because they
Yeah.
come up very quickly
Right.
that high.
Yeah. So we got a next question here, and I actually want to add something onto this one as well. How big is the financial aspect of upcoming young players? How do you decide you're good enough to attempt to go for the highest level? And one of the questions I want to add onto this one is something I had read about where somebody had followed a top 100 player, and knowing how much money you're making, even in the 50 to 250 rank, it's really not a lot until you're actually hitting those Grand Slam level matches. And so he's asking, how big is the financial aspect of upcoming young players, and also to add on to that, how impactful was it for you, in specific, going through those high level matches to where you got to a point where you were financially comfortable, playing?
So it is an absolute myth, that you're going to make gazillions.
Yeah.
Unless you're, I mean, on the guy side, I do have to say, if you're top 100, you can make a very healthy living. The reason for that is they have more tournaments, they have more higher level tournaments. They have a different key with which they distribute the money. So if you look at a draw from each round, the prize money is doubled. They also receive per diem a day before the first match and a day after the last match, unless that changed, but I'm assuming it only has gotten better. On the women's side, we have way fewer tournaments. We have way fewer of those, what I call gap tournaments. We do have a lot of 10s and 15s where you lose more money than you make,
Right.
even if you win the thing, because you stay a whole week, you have to if you travel with the coach, you have to pay your coach, you have to pay the flight, you have to pay hotel for both of you. We on the women's side, you don't have as many 50s, 75s, and 100s where you can get more points quicker. So you're just a lot longer in the lower echelons unless you really have a breakthrough tournament. So the question was like, what are the, what's the impact? I mean, it was huge for me to have a sponsor. I did have a private sponsor that paid my dad when he was coaching me. So that was huge. I also got some financial support from our state federation. So that definitely helped a lot. The biggest impact, though, where I was very fortunate was that I played team tennis in Germany. And at the time, it was the boom time. And I did really well there. So that definitely helped me out a lot.
Okay.
But if you look at it, everybody goes like, oh, you made $500,000. You made $600,000. Yeah, that was over 10 years.
Yeah.
And I had expenses of, I don't know, $400,000 or something. So, and that didn't include the club money.
Right.
But it is incredibly stressful. It is a huge burden for a lot of people because at some point you just don't have any money anymore to travel.
Yep.
And I think I don't know how many viewers you have that, have kids, and it's that whole like, should my kid turn pro, or, are we going for a scholarship, for instance?
Mm-hmm.
By the time that a kid gets a scholarship, have mostly spent more money than the scholarship is worth.
Definitely.
Because it's a boatload of money that you need. Now, of course, with endorsements and, top athletes, more celebrities, everybody gets their sneaker deal. Top players make a boatload. I'd say, top 100, if you can maintain that on the men's side for like 3-4 years, you're pretty okay. On the women's side, I'd say 4 or 5 years of top 80, then you're okay. Then you have time after your career is done to figure out what to do.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, we got. Yeah, no, I mean there's a lot to that, Let's see. Is there an American tennis development system, and how does it compare to other countries? Which would you do if you could do it over?
So the German system, so I'll start with that, is literally goes from the bottom up. So if you're doing well in your county, somebody at some point comes knocking at your door from your region, and then the state, and then potentially national will knock on your door. It is government sponsored. A lot of it is allotted by the government to sports development in general. So I think that's very different than it is here. I know the USTA is doing stuff, and at some point you could potentially get funneled into that system, but here in America, a lot more is just independent and private resources that have to be brought in. Both systems have a lot to do who is in charge right now. I was overlooked for years and years and years because I was a late bloomer, which in the end helped me because I didn't get sent to Australia shoot me wherever as a 12-year-old.
Right.
Or a 13-year-old. So in retrospect, I'm very happy that I kind of flew under the radar a little bit at the time. It pissed me off majorly because, I was playing, I was doing well, and all these other kids get picked, and I didn't know why. And I'm hearing those stories over and over again. So I think there's no difference between any country. It really depends on if, you're liked, you're saying yes to a lot of things that potentially you would not want to do. I'm just giving one example. What's her name? Gabby Dabrowski, Canadian. She was told that she can't have a coach outside of Canada. So she has to train in Canada if she wants to get, federation money. She wanted to train in Tampa. They didn't allow that. She did go to Tampa anyway and was pretty much cut out of their system. Then a couple of years later, Bianca Andreescu comes along. She trains somewhere totally else, and they had reversed their decision. So it's, I don't think there's any one great system. However, I think systems like France, Spain, they do it really well, but they ask you, they demand, request, more or less forcefully, that you train in central facilities. So the kids from northern France go to Paris, and the rest in the south, they go to Marseille, and they have to train there.
Yeah.
Spain is fairly similar. So there's just a lot more hands-on and less free decisions as it is here. So either or, both have good things, both have negative things.
All right. You have time for one or two more, or?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't smell dinner yet.
Which up-and-coming players have the best chance at winning multiple Grand Slams?
That's always where you can only lose.
I know it. Yep.
I love Jen Brady. On the women's side, absolutely love Jen Brady. I love Karolina Mukova, how she plays.
Mukova, yeah.
Just more variety, more, just really good, solid, rock solid foundations that you have to have if you want to win a Grand Slam on either surface. On the men's side, I think it's only a matter of time until Medvedev wins one.
Yeah, I agree.
Same kind of with Rublev, but to be perfectly honest, I want to see anybody but Federer, Rafa, and Djokovic win one because I'm getting sick of them. Come on, people, you've been out there for like what? I mean, Federer played when I was playing.
Right.
Yeah, that's when. So that it's that long ago that he's been playing. So at some point, it's time for new people. But I think it's between them. I don't see Sasha Zverev necessarily. I know I'm always.
I think he's too much of a hothead. I don't think he's gonna get there. I don't think he has the mental game to win Grand Slams. But the one I think does and didn't before, but now does and is proving it. My pick is Tsitsipas.
Yeah, he could absolutely if he gets there. Yeah, I think it's also a little bit. I mean, for instance, Sasha Zverev was one of the examples that he got everything thrown after him from the German Federation. Absolutely deserved so. He was great throughout from age 12 to something, but I'm not sure if it helped him, face adversity early on, which I think is something that if you face that early on and you have a little bit more struggle earlier on in your career, that's definitely going to set you up for a different path.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's see. Blah, 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 blah. We're playing. Is there a way to fix the money situation for the lower ranked player at a challengers level or futures? Now, from my understanding, I've seen like future events where the prize money is like $250, like pretty much nothing. So,
it's demand and supply. I mean, if it's people want to make money off of those, they usually don't. Let's again go into the Spanish system. They have a challenger almost every week of the year. I'm not kidding. You can play clay court tennis every week of the year in Spain and make money. And that is an investment the Spanish Federation makes, both on the men's, on the women's. On the women's, it's mostly 15s and 25s, whereas on the men's side, it's 50s, 65s, and 75s. So it's the investment that the federations have to make. And if not any more private investors come in, then I don't see that changing.
Yeah.
And it's, I've played all those small tournaments. I mean, there's no way that they make their money back. So it's only federations that sponsor them. They have some co-sponsors, but you're starting to make money with tournaments like what was going on right now. I mean, Miami, obviously, you're making a boatload of money, but like maybe 250s for both men and women, that's when you potentially start to break even and make money. Other than, anything below, the organizer is losing money. So I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Yeah. Did you ever play in the mixed doubles at Grand Slams?
I didn't, unfortunately. I qualified for Wimbledon one time. It's the combined rankings of the dude and the girl. And unfortunately, I had to withdraw with an injury. So that was...
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. But I played Alta. I played Alta mixed.
That counts, yeah.
That
Oh
counts.
my God. It's practically just as serious.
Yeah, with with the with the salad plate that you get.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
I
People
mean,
get
it's the competition is almost the same. I remember my first season in 2008 or whatever. Every single one of us girls had been top 100 in doubles at some point. It was the Jensen sisters. It was Angela Latier, or Simon now, Yevgenia, Dr. Sabatina, I think was her maiden name, and me. So every single one, you're going like, this is recreational tennis. This shouldn't be this good. It's like, but yeah.
Yeah,
Like Wimbledon.
there's somebody in that I've heard about. There's a women's player I obviously don't know, and I just this is word of mouth, but the highest level ultimate tennis in Atlanta. There's a women's player that hasn't lost a match in like years in ultimate tennis
Yeah.
because I mean, she used to play in Wimbledon and stuff, and
Yeah, don't doubt it.
yeah, so
That's Atlanta for you.
right. um, let's see. What's your opinion on coaching during matches?
I could have used it. I would badly needed it. I think I don't like it for the simple reasons that lower ranked players often travel with their moms and their dads or their brothers. And, higher ranked players can afford somebody like Moratoglu or whoever it is. So I think it gives an unfair advantage to the wealthier players.
I can see that.
It is frustrating. I mean, if I just go through my experience, my 10 years that I was on tour, I think for like 4 or 5 years I traveled with somebody who couldn't have helped me. I mean, we could have talked about the weather and what my coach's dog was doing at the time. Maybe that would relax me, I don't know, but definitely couldn't have helped me with tennis. I think it takes a little bit of responsibility away from the player, to be perfectly honest. I mean, it is an individual sport.
I agree.
And you want to learn how to deal with it yourself, even if you learn the hard way and you can't cope with adversity quite as well as I did in the beginning of my career. I mean, totally openly admit that. So I think it's just part of the sport. It wasn't ever there. I would have loved it, but yeah, very, very two-edged sword for me.
Yeah. I think I agree with that as well. The coach, I mean, coming from somebody who doesn't know much about, that didn't grow up with that, just looking at it from an outsider's perspective, I think that the whole like coaching during matches is kind of like, I don't know. I wouldn't agree with it. But as far as like now, I have signed up for some like UTR, like some like low level UTR stuff, and UTR is naturally infested by mostly juniors and not people of my age, and so in the rules it's like coaching is allowed or whatever. That's totally fine. Like you're at a like small level, like stuff like that. I really honestly don't care, because like from my perspective, because but like
I mean, coaching is an issue in junior tournaments as is.
Right.
So
now if it's like an official tournament, then
now
sure.
If you have an insane parent out there,
right.
I'm not saying it's a good thing that it happens. I mean, for the most part, I always joke with a few junior players that I have. It's like, I'm hoping that your opponent is getting coached by their parents, because in most cases, that's detrimental to their performance, not helpful.
Right.
There's a couple of crazy parents out there.
There's more than a couple.
Rephrase that. Knowing that.
We got a new face in the chat here for a question. Yeah. CJ Cobb says, for both, I've made the plunge switch to a one-hander. Any tips on this process, Alex? Anything you wish you knew learning the one-hander? So I'll let you answer first. He said he's made the plunge to a one-hander. Any tips on this process?
You definitely have to really work on your footwork, because you obviously don't have the support of the left hand. I'm assuming he's a right-hander, or she.
Yeah.
Okay. So that person is a right-hander, I'm assuming. So you can't really make up as much, because in the very beginning, the ball tends to bully you a lot if you hit it slightly outside of your strike zone. I actually changed from a two-hander to one-hander when it was 11 or 12 or something, and it was not a fun experience per se, until I started getting a little bit more successful with it. But it definitely is an adjustment with your footwork. You have to get into the ball into a slightly smaller strike zone. To my mind, you can't really take that much above your shoulder. And what I would definitely do is Theraband training, just additional strength training, just to prevent injuries.
Yeah,
Because that was the first thing that happens with a lot of players if they change.
that makes sense. For me, it was just I was just brand new to tennis. My dad, the only tennis I knew growing up was my dad was like, "Hey, Alex, we're going over to the tennis court to get some exercise." He was like, "I want to hit the tennis balls." I was like, "Sure, whatever." And so I just ran around and hit the tennis ball, with them. But he had a one-hander, and I guess I just naturally was using one hand on the racket, I guess. And then anytime I ever held a tennis racket, I was like, oh, two hands just feels weird, I don't have the reach that I have with one hand, so why would I do this? And then when I actually started learning tennis and I started learning the one-hander, the big things I think I wish I knew, like straight off the bat, because these are the things that really helped it click with me to where I can actually hit the ball fairly decently now, is my grip. I was like when I first started, I was hitting with the same grip as my forehand as I switched to my backhand pretty much. And that is 100% wrong. And so make sure you have your grip right and make sure you've found that like sweet spot on like what feels good for your grip, and make sure you practice that transition to the grip. And that's what like really helped me to start off with. And then also realizing that how ineffective a one-handed backhand return is compared to a two-handed backhand return of serve. Realizing that you have to have a short take back and really get your body weight just to kind of block the ball, and not trying to like swing through it because you're just going to hurt yourself, and just knowing that the one-handed backhand return is just a weaker shot than the two-handed backhand. But having the reach and the slice and all of that kind of stuff, there's a lot of good advantages, I feel like, to the one-handed. So those are the couple of things that I really wish that I knew.
Yeah, I think the conscientiousness about the grip is fantastic, Alex. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. What goes through your head before you serve and when executing it?
Not a lot. No,
Really?
So ideally, what you want to do is you want to come up with, okay, I'm going to serve down the tee, toss accordingly, and then hit that serve, for instance. Then knowing what their highest percentage return could be. So if I'm playing a righty, the natural rotation probably and their natural inclination is to pull that ball to my backhand. So what my next shot is going to be is a backhand cross court. So I tried to structure my first two balls. Did it happen all the time? Like I said, just now that I said, like, okay, I'm going to serve, I'm going to serve to the tee and I'm going to toss it accordingly. No. But that's the ideal play. So even if you're not tossing it then correctly, because that's what I'm seeing with a lot of rec players when they're starting to place their serves, that they don't have the correct toss for what they wanted to hit and they hit it anyway. And then of course they get in trouble. But yeah, ideally you don't just want to get to the line, toss, and go like, okay, let's see what happens.
Right.
You kind of want to have ideally the first reaction of their return in your head already. That's a little bit more advanced. I think the one very simple thing is, if you're newer to this, get to the line, take your time, run through your checklist. At some point that's naturalized. That's, becoming your second nature. Grip, stands, here's where my toss needs to be. Boom, that's it. Yeah. Good enough. Take a deep breath, toss, get started. I think depending on where you are in your journey, I think there's a couple of different things.
Yeah, I agree. And I think from me, from my perspective, when I'm playing, as somebody who doesn't know what I should be thinking, when I go up to the line to toss the ball, when I'm playing well and I know I'm playing well and I'm like fully engrossed in the game and my mind's not drifted off elsewhere, I do. I mean, because that happens, right?
Talk about that.
Yeah. But when I know I'm playing well and I know I'm fully there, like my my serve usually ends up being, if I'm not thinking about all of the processes of my serve, then I'm playing well.
Yeah.
Because I go up to the line, I just do the thing. I know where I need to toss the ball. I know where I need to do these things. I don't have to think, okay, toss the ball here. Okay, hit the ball here. Okay, watch the bracket.
Yeah.
I don't need to think about those things. I'm thinking about, all right, I'm going to place the ball on their outside. I'm going to place the ball, where they're going to be stretched off the court, and then I'm going to push in. Or at this point, I'm going to serve in volley. I'm going to go for a big flat serve. Those are the only things that I try to think. I think about that, then I go up to the line, and then I just try to execute what I do without thinking about the steps. Because if you start thinking about the steps, you can throw it out the window, because you're gonna mess up.
Yeah, and most of that stuff is not really conscious at some point anymore. It's just kind of it's happening. So
Right.
That's for more advanced or more experienced players. Yeah.
Exactly. Alex has a great one-handed backhand, but he needs to be more aggressive and step into his shot. You are absolutely right, Jeremy. I completely agree.
Yep. Loading off the good old left foot.
Yep.
So yeah, that's definitely something that we have to work on more.
Crunch time coaching. What's his name? Anyway, he gave me this. Peter. There you go. Yep. Gave me this like hip hop step to work on, is what he calls it. It's kind of like a bounce hop and then that last step. So it's like a kind of like a sideways step hop and then into the shot. And I don't know, it's hard. You just have to watch his video on it to like, no, because it doesn't.
I'm kind of just seeing more of this.
No, you just have to see it to like figure out what it is, because it actually took me a second to even do it. Like he explained it to me a couple times, and I was just like, oh yeah. But the big point of that is like trying to take the ball, like get to the ball fast and take the ball, out in front of you and like really lean into it. And it's still something I struggle with. So definitely agree. Perfect. I've chosen the Eastern backhand grip today. Was my first time on the ball machine with it. Was all over the course, but was all over course, but when I flushed one, it feels good. It feels good. Yeah. All it takes is that one that you hit super clean, and then you're hooked. And you're like, I got to find that one again.
Yep. Yeah, and if we talk about one-handers, Eastern forehand grip, knuckles on top of the racket, knuckles facing outward. That's it. I got a video on that. Just published that.
Go watch Micah's video on that.
Yep, there we go. Shameless self-promotion.
All right. Well, I think that's probably a good place to wrap it up at. Do you have any final points that you want to make sure people know, or maybe share your website, share your YouTube channel, that sort of thing? Plug everything.
Sure. So my website is micahbabel.com. But yeah, YouTube, go to my channel. It's just Meike Babel Tennis. Subscribe would be awesome to support my channel. I think I'm the only woman that is kind of dipping her feet into that kind of water.
Only one I've seen.
I know that there's a couple of other girls, but I think they're not trying to grow it as aggressively as I am. But other than that, I mean, Acing Tennis, Alex, you're giving me a great opportunity here. I enjoy this way more than coaching high performance juniors. This is your level, little higher, little lower, below, little above, is exactly who I work with every day. And I just love working with players that obviously have the heart in it and the passion for the game, and that's where I want to be. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity.
Yeah, perfect. I know you've worked with Mark and Saria at this point, right? So, so making our way around, we're going to get your name out there. Hopefully, everybody will know you sooner than later. And
this is my top
that's I'm gonna have to show you that to clear that up. But yeah, I'm gonna be putting all of Micah's links and everything in the description of this video, so make sure to go check her out when you have the time. And thanks for making the time to do this with me, and I'm sure we'll do another one sooner than later.
Okay.
And yeah, absolutely. Thanks everybody for showing up and coming out. Thanks Jeremy 899, Yan, CJ, Spoofy, Laney, all the people in the chat. But we will sign off now and let everybody get back to what they were doing.
Alrighty, cheerio.
All right, bye, Micah.
Bye.